Welcome back to the Saturday edition of Sports Live. Now, just before the ad break, we're talking about the Paralympic Games, which are currently underway. And in terms of our South African who was participating in the men's 200-meter individual medley, Christian Sadie, he finished in fifth. It was an African record, 2 minutes 35.02, but unfortunately unable to medal. But of course, great news in terms of that African record. Now we move to the story where South Africa's two women's baseball teams, the under-18 and the senior teams, made history last weekend in the Women's Month in the country. They lined up against Zimbabwe in the first ever women's international fixture in the African continent. Baseball will be a part of the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. And to tell us more about that is the coach, Hayley Scott-Marie, and the most valuable player of the tournament, Itumeleng Morerwa, who are joining us in studio. A very good evening to both of you. Thank you so much for making time. I want to start off with you, Coach. You know, absolutely incredible in terms of the victory against Zimbabwe. Maybe let's just chat a little bit about the tournament and some of the learning points that you got from there.
Okay, thank you very much for having us. It is a huge honor to be here and to be representing South African baseball. It was an historic moment for us. We hadn't ever had the opportunity to compete at an international. And Women in Baseball is a fairly new program within the South African context. So, you know, launching it in Johannesburg at one of our host clubs in Boksburg, and obviously having our program be exposed to that kind of level has been a huge step forward for the program and obviously a way forward for women in baseball in general. And historically, in the month of Women's Month, it was just a very special moment for the team and for the organization.
Absolutely brilliant. And of course for you, Itu, as well, to then be named the most valuable player of the tournament. Congratulations on that feat. How does that feel?
Thank you. It felt great. It has been a long time coming with us being able to participate in such a huge platform. So yeah, I was very happy.
I want us to chat about how you got into the sport of baseball, you know, because, you know, whether we want to talk about these conversations or really put them on the table, it's not really one of those popular sporting codes. How were you introduced to the sport?
Okay, so I used to do athletics and my then coach introduced me to baseball. And then I played with the boys for like a while. But it kind of got unaccommodative towards girls that were in the program. So I left, and then I think 2 or 3 years ago now, coach called me back and then told me that they were starting a women's program. And I was very glad to come back and join because I've loved this since I started.
Oh yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. You know, and Itu then speaks about how it was unaccommodative, you know, how the conditions really aren't so good, especially when it comes to not only baseball as a sport, but women's baseball, and gaining that kind of corporate assistance, you know, attracting that kind of publicity. How difficult have you found this to be?
It's definitely been one of the biggest challenges we've had. It's a self-funded program because we are a minority sports code. So we haven't really had the access to funding whatsoever. So all of these athletes that have been at the events we've been able to host have had to fund it themselves. And obviously we do have a number of young ladies that are come from very difficult backgrounds, that it's quite a challenge to have them sort of come up with the funding to rely, you know, to cover themselves, so to speak. So that has been one of the hiccups. I think one of the challenges we also faced, as Tumi said, is it wasn't a girls' sport. Baseball's never been perceived to be a girls' sport. So we had a lot of barriers to break through. It wasn't just about perception of whether we could qualify. It was a perception that we were good enough. And so there was those things that the girls were dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think it was anyone's fault. I think it's just a traditional version of the code. Obviously, you're now seeing in Major League Baseball huge drives forward for women in baseball. You know, the first ever you know, in Major League Baseball, there's the first ever coaching staff, there's the first ever players looking to get into the professional circuit. So I think the exciting part that we've felt definitely in the last week, but certainly the most exciting part for us is that we've now created a platform that the ladies never had before. And that platform is now through the senior team into the junior program and obviously to even younger ladies. It's like, this is possible. And I think that's the dream we've envisaged for so many years, but now it became real. So I think that setting that platform in place to give people that opportunity, and especially the young girls that thought it was a boys only code and we couldn't compete. I think that's been the biggest barrier for us, to really break through, to say we are talented. So we had a lot of girls, that are looking at, are we good enough and are we just enough? Because that comparison was always against a male athlete. And fundamentally, as girls get to the ages of 14, 15, 16, 14, 15, 16-year-old young lady is completely different to a 14, 15, 16-year-old young man. And they were competing, and they've showcased their talent amazingly.
Sure, yeah. It's also another story of resilience, and being able to break through the mold and get to the point that you're at right now. Because we know with the league, it's not professionalized, and we still probably have a long way to go until we can get to that point. So just in terms of your dreams and, playing professionally, maybe in other continents around the world, where does that stand for you?
Yeah, it's been a dream for us to be able to have a proper league, especially for women, for baseball, so that we can take it as a career and not just something we do for fun. Because I feel like we perform at a level that we should be accommodated as such, So yeah, I think that is a dream of mine. And with competing and stuff, I feel like once we get recognized, we'll be able to get help that we need, so that when we travel internationally, we get help. Yeah. Because if we don't get help, some of us can't travel because of that. And that puts us at a disadvantage of not being able to showcase who we are and what you can bring because of your background and stuff like that.
Absolutely, because with traveling, and playing with different competitors, it gives you that experience. Yes. It gives you that game time. So if you were to then give us insight, Hayley, in terms of where South Africa stands, especially in terms of women's baseball as compared to the others across the world, where do we rank? How are we competing?
So part of the challenge or part of the real focus of having the series was to get South Africa on the map. Literally, because in the WBSC we can't compete internationally until we're ranked, and we can't get a ranking until we compete. And obviously it is continentally driven. So the purpose of us leading the African continent in this capacity is, one, going to bring on countries like Kenya, Uganda, Ghana to want to join the party, so to speak. And obviously doing that with Zim, one of our closer neighbors, was a great opportunity because it obviously did expose two countries to what's possible. And I think now that the WBSC has seen that we do have capacity, we can now do a nice big comparison of what's possible. So very recently, the World Cup was just completed for the previous cycle, and we wouldn't have had access to that event because we wouldn't have been able to prove what we are capable of. And showcasing this kind of event across the African continent at a bigger scale in the future will give us that ticket, so to speak. And then we now have something to work to. And we've done, as coaching staff, we've done quite a lot of research into, the Canadian teams, the American teams, the Japanese teams, which would be our direct competition. And we really do believe we can medal. We can really believe we can compete. It's just about the opportunity.
Yeah, because Hayley, I'm listening to you now and I'm thinking in 4 years' time, Los Angeles is around the corner. We would like to see the players, the team representing the country at those games. So then how would you go about qualifying?
So the Los Angeles Games won't be an our access point because the baseball in the Olympics is for men. It's not actually for women as yet. It's only for men, and they have softball as the format in the Olympic cycle for women. So they don't actually have women in baseball. So that's another hurdle. That's another hurdle still to get over. But the point is that the USA are reigning World Cup champions. So I do believe that there's opportunity for showcase events. There's an opportunity to platform women in baseball because LA is the host city. So I think in hindsight, it would have been great to have us there, paralleled with the rest, and obviously we would have a big shot at being one of the African contingents to lead the African continent in that space. We have an amazing talent pool. We have athletes that are super passionate. We had a very special moment with the team at the Zimbabwe series where we literally shared our hearts with one another, and it was a very special time because it really just exposed me as a coach to what we have as a pool and what's available and just the real dream. It's not just about the sport, it's about changing lives literally, and that's not. It's easy to quote it that way. Our ex-Nelson Mandela president uses it often, but the point is it's real for us, and it's actually real people, and it's made a real difference to young ladies' lives. And with the senior team specifically, you know, they're going to show leadership. They're going to lead from the front, and they really are going to work really, really well with the junior program to show what's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dumi, I want to give you the parting shot because young girls are watching this program and they also want to one day be the most valuable player in the tournament, just like you. Maybe just to give them, you know, that inspiration and to tell them how great a sport baseball is and why more women should be getting into it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a great sport to be in. It gives you family. It gives you support. It gives you the ambition you need in life, because for you to succeed on a baseball field, you need to be able to believe in yourself and think you can do it. So I feel like most of young girls need that, to know that in every sport, in everything that I want to do, I can achieve it. Because they've set limits to us when the sky's the limit, you know? So I feel like what you want to do, go after it and you'll make it. I know the boys that I played with now, see, I can make it. So, yeah.
I love that. I literally just got goosebumps listening to that. Thank you so much for honoring our invite. It truly is great, especially in the month of August, celebrating women. Of course, that was the coach, Haley, and the most valuable player of the tournament, Dumeleng, that have come through. And for women's baseball, we are hoping that at some point it can also feature in the Olympics. What we do now know for sure is that it's only the men's team, and in terms of the format that will be represented at the 2028 Los Angeles Games.